Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jamie again, back for some more absolutely incredible Labview discussion. A little bit of introduction to Labview. Once again, my name is Jamie Tate. I'm one of the lead learners for the Southern Regional Education Board. I'm one of the people who teaches the innovations of science and technology. Kind of what we've talked about so far is we've covered a few videos on the basics of Labview. So the first video we covered just the LabVIEW 101, how to open it, how to write our first program. The last video we just talked about is how to actually make data communicate with each other, using a little bit of math in LabVIEW, how to place an equation in there. And we actually created our own Fahrenheit to Celsius converter. We did a little resizing, a little change of color, making things look pretty. And then we actually got to kind of see the program run piece by piece using the highlight execution software. What we're going to be talking about in this video, I will tell you this video is a little bit tedious, and it covers a lot of information. We're going to learn some pieces that we have not quite learned yet. I'm going to actually have a while loop in there. I'm going to go over a video that covers how to use while loops, so just kind of bear with me just for a little while. I'm going to just kind of skip over some of that stuff. I encourage you to watch video number 6, which is about while loops and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you kind of a basic how to build it using a while loop, but the big thing here is creating a SubVI. So what a SubVI is basically just kind of taking a piece of our code and simplifying it. We're going to select a piece of our LabVIEW code. We're going to set aside it for use later. It kind of cleans up our block diagram so we don't have pieces of equation all over the place. And it kind of makes our code a little bit more modular so as to use it in a different application later if we'd like to. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we've got our program here that tells us a conversion between Fahrenheit to Celsius. And what I've done here, I'll just tell you from the get-go, I went ahead and I added what is known as a while loop. So now our program is going to run consistently. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and click run. So if I was to do this, it's going to convert on the fly. I'm going to move all of our stuff. So a couple things I am going to change in here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to for a second. Bear with me just for a second. I just got to make a couple small changes so we run a little bit smoother here. So what I've done here is I've used a while loop. While loop executes code continuously until a user says to stop. What you notice here is whenever I click run, I see that there is a stop button here that was not there before, but it does convert continuously until I click the stop button. You see that it ran until I clicked stop. So what we see here in our block diagram, it all looks, as of right now, pretty clean because it's still a small program. But what if we wanted to kind of clean this guy up a little bit? We're going to take this portion of our program and we're going to highlight it. And we're going to we're going to go up here to edit. We're going to say create SubVI. And we see that it all just turns into one box right here. Okay? So let's see what happens if I double click this. I see, okay, so that's perfect. I see that I now have a very own front panel as well as a block diagram for that little section of code that I just highlighted. So it's kind of like a VI-ception, just like the movie Inception. I've got a VI within a VI. So it's got all of its own pieces to it. So what we're going to try to accomplish here is we're going to go ahead and modify. And what we're going to do is we're going to give the user the opportunity to turn it off and on. Okay, I'm going to use what is known as a case structure. Okay, and I'm actually going to modify a couple other pieces of the VI. So just kind of follow along, and I will cover everything as I'm talking to you. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to make this conversion optional for our user. So what we're going to do is we're going to establish and use what is known as a case structure. Okay, so basically it's an on and off switch for the user. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click a button, and I'm going to say that I want to put in a toggle switch here. I'm going to call this, okay, so we got our Boolean switch here. I'm going to move it right over here. And now, so I've got this on and off switch. Now what I need to do is build the basic structure around to turn the conversion on and off. So I'm going to do what is called executive control. I'm going to build a case structure. Okay, so for those of you guys who have programming experience, this is basically just like an if-then statement. Okay, so if it is true, we're going to do this. If it is false, we're going to do something else. If it's false, we're just going to pass through our data, our Fahrenheit data, to the next one. So basically, no conversion. What we see is what we get, Fahrenheit to Fahrenheit. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually connect our switch in order to tell us whether or not it's going to be true or false. By default, it's always going to be false. And we'll kind of see what that looks like. Okay. Once we put everything into big VI. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to change the icon a little bit. This is kind of just a generic icon that kind of pops up with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of, oops, get rid of this picture here. I'm going to actually use something that's a little more appropriate for what the VI actually does. So I'm going to actually, there's a thermometer in here. If you scroll down most of the way down, you'll find a thermometer. I'm actually going to use this one. Okay. The last thing I want to do is I want to be able to have my Boolean toggle switch interact with the main VI. Okay, so whenever I open up my big one, I want to be able to see and give the user the opportunity to toggle this Boolean switch in the main VI. So what I'm going to do, so these are all the different connectors that I have with my current SubVI. And I want to grab one of these and I'm going to connect it to my Boolean toggle switch. There we go. So we'll see that it turns from black to green. Okay. So let's go ahead and open back up our original here. Okay. We'll see that it's now changed. I'm going to go ahead and see now I can actually connect my Boolean statement. It's all changed. It's got a new look to it. We can see that it's a thermometer, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click here and I'm going to create a control. Okay. So now what we see is now we've got a Boolean toggle switch that pops up in our big VI. Okay. So I'm going to move this guy. I'm going to call this guy. I'm going to ask him if he wants to convert. Just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to make this bold, make it an Arial font, and make it okay. Let's go ahead so we can see all of this. Okay. So let's kind of see what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run. Okay, so the Boolean switch is currently off. Okay, so it's just passing Fahrenheit data to Fahrenheit data. Now let's see what happens whenever I turn it on. Awesome. Okay, so it's running continuously. So as I turn it off and on, we'll see that it is now passing through our SubVI, our Boolean statement is, and it is converting whenever we want it to. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it's currently off, so it's passing Fahrenheit to Fahrenheit. Now if I click the Boolean statement on, it's going to go ahead and convert for us. So that means that our program worked. Okay, so kind of what we talked about here is creating a sub-VI. So making our code more modular in order to use in different equations, different places. The cool thing is we'd actually be able to call on this sub-VI in a different program if you would like to. That's something you guys can kind of mess around with. I just wanted to give you guys the basics of how we took our equation for making our temperature conversion, make it into a sub-VI, make it into an icon that corresponds with what the VI actually does, and then call things from that sub-VI into our big VI. So now we've got a little bit more experience. Our program is starting to look a little bit even more complex than it did before. We're no longer just sending in one word at a time, which I think is great. You guys are doing awesome, and hope to see you guys in our next video, which will be covering charts and graphs. So seeing the importance of visualizing our data whenever it comes to our user and how they want to portray. So hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.